What up, rival gang and anybody from the YouTube space seeing this video? Welcome to part 9 of my What If series, and today we have Beast, Dr. Henry Hank McCoy himself, the bouncing blue bombshell, and what it would be like if he joined Marvel Rivals as a strategist. So, I do have him at a 4-star difficulty. I'm just going to be real with you. I want him to be a acrobatic mobility type healer, and I really tried my best to fit that into how I see Beast, and I think a lot of people will agree with this kit, or if not, something similar, right? Just a great foundation to make him the type of character. Well, like I said, he's a very mobile strategist. So with that being said, he is going to be melee based to a certain degree. So I do have him at 275 HP. I have him healing around 65 per second, doing 60 damage per second, and his movement speed is 7 meters per second, which is, a little bit faster than the average character in the game so far. But him being a strategist and also him just being Beast, we know him to be very mobile, right? So going into his passive, we have Biochemical Genius. 2 independent systems run at all times. First, every ally Hank heals with an active ability in the last 4 seconds generates a synthesis charge. Stacking up to 3. Each active charge passively heals Hank himself for 8 HP per second. 1 charge gives 8 HP per second, 2 gives 16 HP per second, and 3 gives 24 HP per second. Charges expire after 6 seconds if the healing chain breaks. Second, every 1.5 seconds, Hank builds a jump charge. Hold jump to charge up to 2 seconds, launching himself in a flipping arc toward his targeted location. He takes 15% reduced damage for the full duration of any charge jump. The longer the charge held, the farther and higher the arc. So this plays into his mobility, right? Let's just speak on the charge first as far as the jump, right? This just allows him to be all over the place. We all know those are iconic flips that he does all the time. Whether he's in the lab or actually on the battlefield, that's pretty much what we want, right? Now, as far as the bulk of his passive, right? Ultimately, the more healing you do, the more you do for your teammates, the more you're doing for yourself, right? To keep yourself in that fight. So yes, you don't have a active healing ability, which we'll get into that, because everything you do is ultimately for your teammates, but as a reward for being there for your teammates, it will, benefit you by healing yourself so that way you can stay in the fight. So I think this is a pretty good passive. Next, we have the left mouse button, which is claw swipe. A rapid double claw swipe dealing 60 damage per second and a 3-meter melee arc. Landing 2 consecutive claw swipes on the same target applies a brief 0.4 stagger that interrupts their active ability cast. Hank's answer to enemies diving his backline. Staying aggressive forces enemies to deal with them directly instead of freely targeting his teammates. So again, very anti-dive, right? Very, very anti-dive, because yes, they try to get back there, but if they have to deal with Beast, you're getting interrupted if he's staying on you. And we all know those little micro interruptions can mean everything, because you trying to pull off certain moves and not being able to pull them off as best as you usually can because he's interrupting you. Oh, he's going to cause problems. So I think this would be a great anti-dive strategist. I think a lot of strategists would want a character like this, and I think it's just, honestly, I think it's good for the game. Even if it's not necessarily dealing with divers, if you're even in the front line, or maybe you're trying to run off and do something yourself because you're trying to make a play, this is going to be a great move that's automatically built into his, I guess you would say, auto damage or auto attack, to where again you land 2 hits, boom, they're interrupted for less than a second, but that could be the difference of something going on crucial and being a very critical play. So moving forward, we have right mouse button, we have Biochem Salve. Hank synthesizes a biochemical compound and hurls it at the targeted ally within 12 meters, restoring 65 HP per second for 2 seconds on impact for a total of 130 HP. Biochem Salve has 4 charges that each refresh individually every 1.75 seconds, allowing rapid sequential heals across multiple teammates before any charges run dry. Each application generates a synthesis charge, feeding the passive self-heal on Hank himself. So again, this is pretty much his main healing ability right here. You get 4 charges, right? They heal pretty great, so I don't think anybody would have an issue with this. I guess it would work very similar to Mantis. At least that's how I thought of this. So that way you still have those charges. You do get them back pretty quick. And yeah, with that being said, this is also something that keeps Hank in the fight, because the more of these you land, ultimately the more heal that you build up for yourself, and it just ultimately just keeps you in the fight a little bit longer. And I just think this is just a great way to heal your teammates, especially when you're, like I said, you're being so mobile where you're all over the place. You're dropping these Biochem Salves left and right based on who you're targeting. Very great ability. So we have Shift Acrobatic Leap. It says Hank launches himself in any direction up to 10 meters, landing with a shockwave that deals 40 AoE damage to enemies within 3 meters. Using Acrobatic Leap directly towards a wounded ally within 6 meters of the landing point immediately triggers a free Biochem Salve on arrival, consuming no charge, 8-second cooldown. So again, this is just something to help him get around the map, also heal his teammates. As y'all can see, it is very focused on ultimately getting to your teammates and making sure that they have stability available. Very great move, again, as far as mobility, because it allows you to dive and get to certain areas as well in case you need to stop and interrupt something with your auto attack because of the interrupt that it does, right? Pretty much there's really nothing else to say. It does a little bit of damage, so it's not meant to be anything, you know, super strong as far as damage wise, but it is something to ultimately be there for your teammates when they need you, or like I said, you need to make a play. So we have his E, inhibitor compound. He synthesizes and throws an inhibitor compound at a targeted enemy within 12 meters, coating them in a biochemical suppressor that reduces all their ability cooldown recovery by 30% for 3 seconds. Can be thrown mid-leap, best applied to any enemy attempting to burst down an ally Hank is protecting. So this right here is for those characters to where you're trying to keep their abilities on rotation as long as possible. And again, it's a great disturber. It's a 13-second cooldown, so I don't think that's too crazy. So for those characters that really go into like burst abilities and things like that where they can chunk you down, this is a counter to that to a certain degree. It at least buys a little bit of time, right? If you use this on the right people at the right time, this is where that differential between a beginner beast versus a pro beast, this is going to be the difference right here, or one of the difference makers right here. So again, I think this is a great ability. Could this be toned down a little bit? As I always say, I will never say that all these abilities need to be in the game or this is how they should be shipped into the game. All this stuff is just for fun and to, think of a what if scenario of how cool, of essentially what beast would be like if he joined the game, essentially, right? So again, numbers can be tweaked a little bit, but I do think this would be a great ability. Now this is probably my favorite ability. This is the F ability here, Stimulant Formula. So Hank injects a potent stimulant compound into a targeted ally within 8 meters, boosting their damage output by 8% and movement speed by 12% for 3 seconds, while simultaneously restoring 120 HP over the same duration at 40 HP per second. All 3 effects run simultaneously for the full 3 seconds. Best used on a frontline ally about to engage or the ally being pressured who needs to escape. 14-second cooldown. So again, a very high cooldown ability, but this is something that again can be a game changer, because if you have a duelist, for example, that knows what they're doing and actually making an impact on the game, this is a very strong ability. Right, again, very similar to Mantis to some degree, but I think this is a little bit better because it does really a little bit of everything. Right, every 14 seconds you're going to have a teammate that pretty much is on steroids and can make a lot of things happen. Right, so again, I think him having an ability like this plus everything else that we've already discussed, I think this would make Beast a very top tier character and a strategist that anybody would want on their team. Right, there's some counterplay that could be done to him, right, especially if you're running anti-heal or something like that, because his kit is very heal based for himself and others. But if you need a healer that can actually do some good chunk heals, I think this is your guy. So next we'll move on to C, Pheromone Shroud. So Hank releases a cloud of engineered pheromones in a 10-meter radius. Enemies within the cloud have their accuracy reduced by 25% and targeting distorted by 3 seconds. Allies inside receive a 10% damage reduction bonus for the same duration. Hank moves freely while the cloud persists. Hard counter to dive attackers rushing the backline, 15-second cooldown. And like I said, this could also be an ability that could be interchanged with any of these to a certain degree, right? I guess it depends on what you would want. Or again, usually C is usually your team up ability. Now I don't know who this would necessarily be a good team up with. I'll let you guys decide, but again, if this were a team up ability or if y'all wanted to swap these out for any other ability, I think this would be a good extra one to have. Now moving on to the big one here, the ultimate, costing 2,800. His Q, emergency protocol. So Hank activates his emergency medical protocol for 7 seconds. All allies within 18 meters receive 40 HP per second passive regeneration for the full duration. Biochem Salve fires twice per cast. The first projectile targets the primary ally as normal. The second automatically seats the second lowest health ally within 6 meters of the first target for 130 HP. Acrobatic Leap cooldown drops to 2 seconds. Inhibitor compound applies to all enemies within 8 meters automatically on each Acrobatic Leap landing. Synthesis charge are permanently maxed at 3 for the full duration, giving Hank a constant 24 HP per second self-heal. So, again, we want ultimates to ultimately be powerful, but not too crazy, right? I think this is a decent ability. I mean, it's only 7 seconds, right? I think this will be a great ultimate to move your team forward. It obviously is healing. It's allowing you to do some extra healing here or there as well, where you still have to be interactive, right? You still have to be interactive, because even though you're being healed at 40 HP per second, you can still die. People could still land a lot of lethal things on you and kill you. But with, like I said, him being able to still use his Biochem Salve and Acrobatic Leap, things of that nature, again, with some balancing, I do think that just this kit overall, these abilities in general would be very perfect for a character like Beast, right? So again, there's a lot of numbers that could be edited and changed, a lot of, tweaks that could be made, but as a whole, I think this would be a great fit for Beast. So, you guys tell me what you think. Like I said, my goal was to make him a very agile, mobile strategist, to where he's going in and out, he's doing things based on what we know him to be. Like I said, a genius in the field, always in the lab, coming up with certain things to ultimately help his teammates in battle, whether offensively and defensively. And I think we did just that with this. So this was definitely a fun one to do. I know I say that all the time. Trust me, all of these are fun to do at the end of the day, so it's just, hey, we don't know until these characters actually hit the game, because eventually we know they're coming. Come on now. I mean, Beast is one of the main faces of the X-Men, so we know he's coming eventually. But with that being said, y'all let me know what you think. Let me know what you would change. Let me know what abilities you come up for yourself that you think would be cool for other people to hear and see. Again, leave it in the comments. We're always willing, or at least I am always willing to see what you guys have to say. As always, again, this has been a great success with this series, so I appreciate all the love and support that you guys send to me every single day, every view, every like, every comment. Trust me, I really do appreciate it. I could not stress that more enough. But with that being said, until the next one, it's your boy Ranger. See y'all in the next video. Peace.